Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. Is it Wale? Am I saying your name?
Yeah, Wale. Like the rapper Wale.
There we go. All right. Well, welcome to the show. What can we do for you? What can we answer for you?
All right. Firstly, I want to really thank big shout out to Josh Dawkins for sticking out this, bigger pocket that started very small several years ago. I can say bigger pocket has changed my life, and he has changed a lot of people's life as well. So that being said, I am a very, very loyal follower of Bigger Pockets. This is my man David Greene, and this is yours here.
Oh, there you go.
So yeah, and if you can see my back, I read a lot of books. So I've been taking action. About me, originally from Nigeria, came in as F1 student, get my master's degree in engineering, start consuming content from Bigger Pockets, and eventually I see that, hey, this is the path I want to go. Bigger Pocket has helped me a lot with mindsets. Things is not possible. We just have to go and figure out, how to do it. So yeah, that's about me. I'm an investor agent. I call myself on fire agent.
There we go. We're changing the terminology.
On fire agent. So and that's what I do. That's what I encourage people to look for when they're trying to work with an agent, because like you said earlier, it helps them shorten the learning curve. As an agent, I'm buying rental property for myself, so I can easily transfer that knowledge to help them achieve the same goal they're trying to achieve.
Love it.
Instead of paying the gurus $50,000, $40,000 for something that you might not even close a single deal. So that is what I've been doing. So now back to my question. I think one of my question is balancing family life with investing and real estate. I'm also a project engineer, by the way. I have a full-time job as a project engineer. So I've been juggling this thing, real estate, family, and W2. So, but I'm at the point where I'm kind of like closing, comfortably, I would say 2 transactions every month now, while still working full-time as a project engineer. So my question is this: what is the practical step of, if I don't want to let my W2 go yet, and I still want to be crushing it in real estate, what is the practical step to really take to, balance everything out? I know I'm not doing good with family wise because it's just very hard. Like you guys know, for every entrepreneur, it's very hard. So what will be the practical steps? I know you kind of answered a little bit with Joseph, but just give me that 1, 2, 3, and I know you're doing well with your wife, Heather. So
I don't do as well as I should, but yeah, balancing family is so hard. So yeah, the main things that I do is, okay, first of all, I mentioned this a lot on the show, but I'll say it again now because it's a powerful analogy. When Dr. Oz, right? So Dr. Oz is the famous physician that's on TV, right? He had a TV show. It was on Oprah. He had a bunch of magazines. He was writing articles. He was like everywhere in the media. He was also doing like 200 open heart surgeries every year. And the question is, how can a guy that's that busy with media and TV, how can he do that many open heart surgeries? And the truth was, he wasn't cutting people open. He wasn't delivering the anesthesia. He wasn't walking them from their room to he wasn't doing any of that stuff. All he was doing is taking his knife and doing a cut and walking out of the room. And the knife was all set up. It was washed. It was ready to go. His like, somebody probably helped put on his shirt. In other words, he was doing the thing that only he could do. That's the Dr. Oz. It was like the Dr. Oz cut, right? And so if the first thing in balancing, and this, we all know this, but it's just hard. It's like, what is that Dr. Oz cut for you? What is that 1, 2, 3 things that you should be doing that nobody else should be doing? So for me, like, I stopped attending almost all meetings for Bigger Pockets. Like, I don't go to hardly any of the stuff. I don't go to the board meetings. I don't do anything with Bigger Pockets. I show up to do this podcast and I do the webinar once a week because that is my Dr. Oz cut. I do very little else because that's the one thing I can do that affects everything in my world. Open Door Capital. I meet with Brian Murray and Walker, my two, like, kind of like the executives, I guess you could call them. We meet, and then I have one meeting with my whole team of everybody else that's running things. Those 2 hours is about all I do from a like high level because they're my Dr. Oz cut. So that's huge, is just identifying what are those few things that matter more than anything else. And like David said earlier, who, not how. So if there's anything else I got to do, I'm wondering who's going to do that for me. How can I bring in an internship? How can I hire another employee and be able to afford that? How can I do that? So those are the few things that I do. Then I actually have to schedule dates with my wife. I put it on my calendar ahead of time because if I'm not intentional about it, it won't get done. I just know that like family tends to be the last thing that most people, especially entrepreneurs, prioritize when it should be the first. So I schedule vacations on my calendar. I schedule date nights with my wife. I schedule walks with my kids. And I try to build some routines in there because once, like, here's the thing that I got wrong for a long time. I know I'm throwing a lot here, but I thought that when my wife would not complain, but when she would bring up to me that I'm working too much, I thought that she wanted me to spend equal times working and equal time with the kids. And then finally what she made clear was it's not about equal time. I don't need to spend 4 hours a day, wrestling with my kid on the bed in order to being a good father and fulfill my role as a father. But I need to be regular about it. I need to be when I'm in the moment, I need to be there doing that thing and not other things. And it needs to be like, it just needs to be done like at least every day for a little bit. So if I spend 20 minutes giving her a 30-minute break or 20-minute break or an hour-long break once a day, like that changes everything for her, for the kids. So anyway, those are a few thoughts. David, anything you want to add on there?
Well, let me ask you this. When you're asking doing real estate while doing a W-2 job, that was your original question, right, Wale?
Yes.
Are we talking about being an agent or are we talking about being an investor?
Okay, I'm an agent.
Okay.
I'm an investor agent. I focus on working with investors. I try to help them to take action. So also buying rental property using the BRRRR for myself. So it's like I have a 3-job, W-2, real estate agent, working with investors that like to crush numbers and looking for deal, buying it and burying it for myself. And, I have to also manage contractor in between. So you get what I'm saying?
Let me ask you a couple of questions. At your W-2 job, do you have downtime in the day or are you completely focused on that work the whole time?
Well, there is some downtime, and that is why I've been, been able to be closing consistently, 2-3 transactions every month because I use, I squeeze in time, my lunch time, work late after work, stay behind, schedule phone call in between, all those kind of stuff.
Well, congratulations on closing 2 to 3 deals a month. That's no joke. You're very successful, Wale. That tells me several things about you. Not only are you a hard worker, people trust you. You're a man of character. Even though you have a job, your clients still feel comfortable having you as their agent. So you may be downplaying your own success already. I just want to highlight that.
Well, that's good. And that's why I'm here. So you can give me the experience from you managing a team. What have you seen? Specifically, do you have a team member that is in my shoe and they're still crushing it?
Yeah, that was me. I did it as a police officer, and now I'm running like 7 different companies or so. And so we're in the same boat. I totally feel your pain. I needed to get some background on where you are. Earlier in one of these shows, I gave an example of when you should sprint as hard as you can and when you need to kind of hit cruise control and just jog. And there's an example of like if you're in a fight, there's moments where you have an advantage that you can knock the person out and you need to give everything you have in that moment. There's other moments where you're sort of half engaged. You're kind of feeling them out. You're getting to know them. You're not giving it everything you have. You got to understand business works the same way. There are moments where somebody says, hey, I have a question about this house. And if you don't get back to them immediately, that's okay. A couple hours go by, they're all right. There's other situations where we want to see this house right now. And if you're on the clock and can't go show them the house, you're going to lose the deal. So what I did was I took a list of, like, say a buyer, because sellers are a lot easier to work around. And I literally numbered every single step 1 through 50 that has to go into closing on a buyer. And it was as specific as schedule a call to find out what they want, conduct the call to find out what they want, put them on an email drip, give them a presentation that I have delivered. All right. And once I had that whole list, schedule a call with the listing agent so that I can go show them the house, make sure it's on my calendar. Those are different steps. That's how detailed this was. I went and I highlighted in different colors the steps that had to be done urgently right away. There was only a few things on there. I also put a different color for something that David had to do. Okay. Much of what was on that list did not have to be David doing it. I needed to be involved in negotiating directly with the listing agent because that was too important and I didn't want them to end up overpaying. I needed to be involved in reviewing the numbers if this was an investment property to make sure they got good advice. I did not need to be involved in opening the door to let the home inspector in the house to do the inspection. I did not even have to be the person showing the house. I didn't have to be the person scheduling the phone calls that I told you had to happen. I did need to be the person making the calls. So here's my advice to you. Systemize what you're doing that specifically, and then find another agent in the office that can do the things that don't have to be you. Now, if you have them scheduling your calls, you time block in your calendar when you're working and when you're not free, and they schedule it around that. When you talk to the client and they want to go see that house on Main Street, you have somebody else from your office go show it to them, and then you call them when you get off work and talk about how it went down. I promise you, Wale, this is so much simpler than people think it is when they're in the mode of like, well, do I do this or do I do that? You can do both. You just have to be smart about how you arrange it, and your clients will never even know. They don't know that you're at work. They're not going to know that they're not important. They have this other person communicating with them, setting up showings, taking them to see houses, answering questions, doing some research, and then giving you all the information that you need to actually make the decision. And you use that system while you're working your W-2. And here's the beauty. When you get out of your W-2 and you become a full-time agent, that doesn't mean you go show homes. You spend that time lead generating, looking for deals, putting stuff under contract for yourself, finding new clients, really high dollar productive stuff. And you keep using other people to do the stuff that doesn't make you money. And now you have a business. Now you have a system. Now you have a way to scale much faster. I think the people that had to work the W-2 job and work a second job are at an advantage. It's just like my long distance real estate investing system forced me to systemize what I was doing. Whereas someone like Brandon, who invested in his hometown, could get lured into, hey, I'll just go change the door lock. That'll be okay. So look at this like a blessing. Not only can you make good money while you're learning a new business, but you can learn how to be a business owner and not just an employee in your own business.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm leveraging on a local assistant. I also have a VA that is doing some of my stuff for me.
Beautiful.
And definitely I am being very wise using my time. But a quick follow-up question is, or answer, right? I'm a full-time agent as well. I work in real estate about 80 hours a week, and I have a 40 hours commitment to my W-2. So I'm working 120 hours a week. So that was where my question comes in. Hey, of course, the family will suffer, right? Because you just married to your job, according to my wife. So that's why I'm kind of like going there. But I would really like if you can help with that, cheat sheets. If I can look at it and see how I can, internalize it to suit my own kind of style. So is that something you can do?
That's going to be, so that book that you held up sold, that's the first in a 3-part series. The second book, yes, that one is going to be how to be a top producer. So how to dominate your market.
Okay.
The third book is going to be how to build a team, which is going to focus on what we're talking about here. Systemizing what is done and delegating it to different people. So hang tight. It's on the way.
Can I also push you on one thing? Or, not push you on it, but ask why not, you're a good agent. I can tell you're closing deals. You know what you're doing. Is it, and it may not be this way, but is it fear that's causing you not to quit your job and jump into real estate full time, or is it a love for your job? You just love your job?
Yeah, that was my follow-up question. I would think it is. I hope my employer is not listening to this. I don't love what I'm doing, so I don't love what I'm doing. I went to school, bachelor's, master's degree in chemical engineering. So of course, engineering is not easy, right? So I can say I'm smart. So, but the thing is, the corporate America, I fell in love with real estate about 2 years ago. So the goal is, hey, you know what? I hope this is not a fluke. Let me have a lot of time. Let me get a lot of data to be able to, really analyze and make sure, yes, this actually works. So, and, if you're closing 2-3 transactions every month, that's about, I'm in Texas, I'm in Houston, Texas. That's about $15,000 on the average, in commission. So that's not bad. So I would say it is fear, to keep it very simple in what it is fear. Hey, fear of the unknown. And I'm currently putting in contingencies to accommodate those fears that may not even happen. But hey, as human, we do have that fear. So that's the answer to that.
All right. Yeah. And it's kind of David said earlier too about when you have more reserves, like the more reserves you have, it can protect you. One thing Tim Ferriss says in the 4-Hour Work Week is he mentions like almost all decisions are reversible. I mean, now he's talking about quitting your job to travel the world, but if you I'm not saying you have to quit your job, but I'm just saying this for everyone listening too. If you saved up a bunch of money and went and quit your job for a year to go try your hardest at real estate, and you were putting in more hours on the real estate agent side, like I believe most people would probably make more than what they're making at their job because it's scalable and jobs aren't. But if it didn't, almost every job, like with a few months of looking, you'd probably be able to get back into another job again. And if you don't absolutely love your job, then who cares? It's another asymmetric bet. It's like there's not a lot to lose, but there's a lot to gain from taking those risks. So don't be afraid. But anyway, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, I have another question. The question is, like I said, I'm on fire agent. I work with a lot of investors. As a matter of fact, my specialty is working with investors. And like David understand, investors are very analytical. They're not as easy. You can't easily close a deal like a traditional, buying. So some of them reach out to me. They will, do the buyer consultation. They will just disappear. And my goal is to help them close a transaction. I usually have like a 90 days, taken from your 90 days journal book. So kind of like automatically setting up a goal for them that, hey, in the next 90 days, I want you to have the keys to your first rental or next rental property. So, and I'm going to be pouring in the knowledge that I have because I'm doing it for myself. I'm not just a regular agent that is just selling. I am buying for myself. Right? I'm also taking the risk. Whatever issues they're going to be facing or potential issues, I've also been there and I'm still there. I'm still facing challenges. So, but you just see that some of them never take action. So what are the common mistakes you see that new investors making and that you think as an investor agent, this is how I can help them?
One thing I want to highlight that we just talked about before is they're easily reversible. I just wish every single person listening to the podcast could grab that point. I cannot tell you how many people say, yeah, I really want a house hack, but what if I don't like it? What if I don't like having roommates? Or what if I get cramped up living in a small house and I want a big one? And then move out, move back into where you were, go get another apartment. There's not a law that forces you to live in a house that you don't like. I don't know why that doesn't occur to people, but it's such a small percentage of the time you're not happy, but if you're not happy, it's such an easy solution. Go back to what you did before, and now you have a house and rent out where you were going to be living. That's totally fine as long as you intended to occupy it when you bought it. So thank you for just pointing out that it's so many of these things are easily reversible. Wale, your question when it comes to working with investor clients, were you saying how do you put the time aside to actually make sure you can close them?
My question is some of them, they take the information and they never follow up. You call them, they don't pick their call. I just see that they are not motivated enough.
That's the problem of you not qualifying that lead when you first got it. So I have a sales funnel that I talk about in Sold. I've also just created a lead funnel that are just the steps that you take when you qualify a lead. The first step is contact. You contact the lead with speed. You talk to them right away. The next step is qualify. You find out, am I the right fit for what you want to do? And do you have the capability to even buy this house? If you contact a lead and they've got no money and no investing experience and they're like, hey, I want you to find me an off-market deal that you're not going to get paid a commission on, that's not a lead for you to work. They're not qualified. We skip that step a lot of the time. The third step is pursue. This is very similar, Brandon, to your lapse funnel. If they look good, you pursue that person. You could even say that my qualify step is the same as analyzing the deal because you're qualifying the deal when you analyze it. And then the last step would be close them, move them into being a client. Too many agents are not direct enough with the investors that approach them. In fact, I just had a case where I referred somebody to my Hawaii team and my agent in Hawaii didn't do a good enough job qualifying that person. And the investor wasn't very happy. They didn't like the qualifications that the agent had. And so they said, hey, like you could tell they were a little salty when they said, I don't want to work with you guys. Had my agent done a better job of telling that person up front, what you want is not something that I can do. I can find someone to do it, or if you can do that component, I can help you with here, the relationship would have been solved. So those of you that are listening to the podcast, we tell you all the time, find a good agent. Also make sure you're a good investor. If you know you're not going to pull the trigger and you just tell the agent ahead of time, look, I'm not going to buy anything with you, but I want to learn. Can you help me with that? And I'll send you referrals. Can you help me with that? And when I'm ready, I'll use you. Just be upfront about what's going on. I think what Wale's talking about here are the buyers who aren't ready to be a buyer. And they think if they tell the agent that ahead of time, that the agent won't work with them. So it turns into this somewhat deceitful situation where the client is not being upfront with Wale about what they really want to do. And then the agents end up doing the same thing back. They just sort of beat around the bush and they don't communicate directly. They stop responding to emails and the whole thing just falls into a bad place. So the cure for that, the cowbell, is direction. You got to be way more direct with them and you have to encourage them to be direct with you. Brandon, from your experience, because you're not an agent, what do you think?
I think there's like three types of people in the world. There's people who will never invest in real estate. There's three types of people who who are going to work with you, Wale. Like there's people who say they want to invest in real estate, but just will not no matter what. Then on the other side, there are people who say they want to, and then they actually will. Like guaranteed, they're going to crush it. They're going to be like, I feel like David here was going to invest in real estate no matter what. Once he got into it, he was just going to do it. He has that personality. And then there's a third type. It's in the middle. It's they say they want to, but without the right hand holding and encouragement and pushing them, they're not going to. They're not going to just naturally do it, but they can be walked through that journey if they're helped. So 3 types of people again: people who will never do it despite saying they will, people who will do it because they want to, and then the people that need to be journeyed. So going to what David said is you need to qualify them. Which of the 3 groups are they in? Are they and sometimes it's impossible to know. Are they the type on the far side who are just going to waste your time and they will never take the action needed? Or are they the type that are just going to do it no matter what? So yeah, grab those people all day long. And then the middle people is what I want to talk about here for a second. Those people who, without your guidance, they will not do it. Just life is too busy. They got too many obligations. Investing in real estate's hard. You're trying to help them, but they're not going to get there. And I have such a heart for those people because they really want it. They just aren't ready. So how do you get them there? I love your 90-day thing. I love sprints. I love challenges. I love things like that, right? Because they get people down the path. So the mistakes that I see a lot of investors make is they don't take daily consistent action. So the more you can get your clients just, I talk a lot about MINS, most important next step. Identify what your most important next step is. It's usually a 5-minute or less task. So if you as an agent can help them identify what is that next task that you need to do, and it's usually a 5-minute phone call or less, get them to do that thing. And then the next day, get them to do another little action and then another little action. It's people, they'll get overwhelmed, then they won't do it. They'll get busy. They won't do it. But if you're like, hey man, I just need you to have a 5-minute conversation with this lender that I love. He's amazing. He just needs to take a little bit of information from you. Can you do that today at 4? Oh yeah, I can do that at 4. Okay, great. I'm going to put it on your calendar. I'm going to send you a calendar invite right now. And I'm going to be on that call with you as well. Just make sure that your hand's held. I don't know if you can legally do that, but be on a call with a lender. But the idea being, right, you now took a overwhelming thing and you gave them a 1-minute little task, a 5-minute little task to do. It's like the whole, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Buying an investment property is an elephant. So just don't show them the elephant. Just show them one bite at a time. So that'd be my thought.
All right. Thank you. And the last question is, what is that? I know you guys have, business or performance coach. Which one would you recommend? I think I've Jason Duros or Jason Drills.
Jason Dries. Yeah. Jason's mine.
So, but as an agent, because my mindset is like divided, right? I want to be very good, performing as an individual, and I want to, even 10x my real estate, eventually have a team and all those things. So those mindset shifts and think bigger and, those kind of things. And also it has to be affordable. I think it has to be affordable. I know some coaches are like way up there. So
yeah, let's talk about coaches for a quick second. So there are different types of coaches out there that can help you. There's the real estate guru coach, right? Like they have agents and investors. There's the gurus that you pay them $50,000. They're going to coach you, right? That's not what we're talking about. What David and I are big into is what is like performance coaches. I'm just making sure everyone's on the same page on what we're talking about. Like, my guy, his name is Jason Dries. I hire him. It costs me, I don't know, it's like, thousands of dollars a year. And I meet with him every couple of weeks and we just have a conversation about what I'm dealing with. Now, that he is a mindset coach and I like that. I treat it like therapy. I'm like, oh, and this is going wrong and this is going wrong. And he'll be like, oh, what's another way of thinking about that problem? Or why do you feel that way, Brandon? And I'm like, well, because of this. And he's like, well, why do you feel that way? I'm like, because of this. So that's a performance coach. Then there are business coaches, which like, what's the who not how guy? Dan Sullivan.
Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy.
Yeah, so Benjamin Hardy's part of Strategic Coach, which Dan Sullivan started. That's more of like a business coaching thing, which I would love to have a business coach at some point as well. I don't have any good recommendations there. So that's what I guess the question is, do you need somebody that helps with the mindset and like I use Jason for, which helps me a lot? Then look for somebody that does that, the mindset, the performance coaching side. If you need like the other side, the business coach is like, you need to set up an LLC. What are you going to do? Like, write down your 3 goals that we're going to do this week, and I'm going to check back next week with you. That's more the business side. So I guess which coach you go with is what you need. And then secondly, you got to find a coach who's like, who gets you, like who understands, like you guys vibe together. You like, but at the same time, will hold you accountable to stuff. There's a lot of people who call themselves coaches and aren't. But, and then the third point is no matter how much a performance coach is, if they're good, they're worth it. And I obviously you're not going to pay somebody millions of dollars, but like at this level, like while you're making good money in a career, you're struggling with the family, how to balance that stuff. You've got, you're closing 2 deals a month, real estate wise, let's say. If you're meeting with somebody every other week and they were helping you get your mind in the right place, they're helping you set your goals, they're helping you get more time with your wife, your family, that kind of stuff. And it costs you $20,000 a year. It costs you $50,000 a year, but it freed up more time with your family. And it helped you close 4 deals a month instead of 2 deals a month. It helps you buy 1 more burr every year. Isn't that worth the investment? And you're never going to pay $50,000. So yes, it needs to be affordable. I agree with that. But just, I would shift the thinking from how much it costs to like, what am I going to get out of it? What investment, what return? I mean, me paying thousands of dollars to Jason has made me millions of dollars. I would not be where I am today, physically or business wise, without having a performance coach. So.
Yeah, before David respond, is there any way to marry both together, like business and performance, both as one person?
I definitely think there is. And in fact, like, I mean, a lot of what we talk about is business. Like when I talk with my coach, and a lot of what, business coaches talk about is life. So they're very married already, but it's more like what's their focus. Like when they approach a problem, let's say the problem is I need more time with my family. One coach is going to be like, let's go through time management processes to make sure you're maximizing your time. Mm-hmm. The other one's going to ask you the question, why do you like, what's most important in your life? Why do you feel like you need more time with your family? And like, it's like not saying you shouldn't, but they're going to ask the questions that make you think deeper versus like, let's just fix the problem. So, it's just different approaches. Different people have different approaches, and sometimes you need one, sometimes the other. And I'm sure it's possible to find both. I feel like Jason's both, but he definitely leans towards the mindset side of things. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on today. You've been awesome, man. And you're crushing it. Can't wait to see where you're headed. And yeah, keep doing it, man.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much.